There's one pacing out the two big windows. He was pacing all day there. There was one at either end of the hallway. Okay. And I have an escort officer come in to take me anywhere when I have, because I'm an officer. And the code was that an officer of equal rank will be with him at all times. And the answering code is, because I'm an officer and a gentleman and chivalrous, I wouldn't try to flee because it would destroy my fellow officer's career. That's the code in the service. That's how it worked. So we went around, I went to have meals and I would run and I would go to the hearing every day with my escort officer. Okay. They move in over me, a major in military intelligence. Okay. Now, I mean, anyone can understand what they're doing. They were listening to the conversations in the room with listening devices, and the MPs in the hallway told us they were doing that. These were kids, 19-year-old MPs. They could care less about the Army. These are the 2-year wonders who didn't want to go to Vietnam. And they were saying, hey, Captain, this guy upstairs, he's a real asshole. Just be careful what you say in the room. They got recording devices. We knew exactly what was going on. We would sprinkle talcum powder over my floor and go to lunch or go to the hearing. We would come back and there'd be footprints in the talcum powder. I mean, it sounds juvenile, but that's, and we'd go out and we'd say to the guard who was inside the room, and he'd get all red, 19-year-old kid from Brooklyn or something. He'd get crimson. He'd say, no one, I just work here. No one, And so we'd go back and I'd make a note, and my escort officer would sign the note so that there was no, quarreling later on when we had to prove they were breaking into my living quarters to read my attorney-client correspondence that they weren't entitled to see. Okay. And then we'd set traps in the drawers with hair. You take a hair, put it in a letter, and have someone witness it so you can all see where the hair is. And when you come back from lunch, there's no hair. Someone's taken a letter, read it, and the hair's gone, or it's in the letter or whatever. Okay. So all this had been going on, including intentional changing of lab reports. The whole end result of the hair incident, which Joe never says clearly, is that 6 weeks later, after assaulting my lawyers and after taking the hair, which, by the way, all we had ever said to them was, you need a lawful order. Get his colonel to say, Captain MacDonald, you must give hair. And they said, fuck you. You can't tell us how to run the Army. The CID guys, this is not Army, this is CID. They're Army, but it's not the same thing. Okay. So that's what happened over the hair incident. They take the hair. 6 weeks later, there's no lab reports. To make a long story short, Colonel Rock got so angry when he found out the hair report had been there a week later, and they had been hiding it for 5 weeks, that he called Mr. Grebner, the head of the CID, and put him on the stand himself. And he made him give him the hair report, and he put in the record things like, where has this hair report been? And Mr. Grebner says it was lost in the evidence safe. So we have this, Bernie and I are sitting there, and Mike Malley and everyone is sitting there, and we're looking around the evidence. We're picturing a walk-in locker, like this. So Colonel Rock or Bernie or someone says, well, how big is the evidence safe? He says 18 by 12 by 12. So we figure he must mean 12 by 12 on the doorway, 12 feet by 12 feet, and 18 feet deep. And so Bernie says something like a foot, 18 feet deep. And he says, no, 18 inches. It's 12 inches by 12 inches and by 18 inches. That's the evidence locker in a triple homicide that's in the headlines every day. And Mr. Grevner has just testified he lost the hair report. So we interviewed the lab techs at Fort Gordon, and they testified under oath that they had gotten a call from the prosecutor to change the lab report, and it took them 5 weeks to hold them off. Now, they did issue a second one, but they refused to say what the prosecutor wanted. They tried to soften the wording. The end result was the hair in Colette's hand was not mine. Okay, this is why they assaulted the lawyers and took the hair, to prove that the hair in Colette's hand was mine. When it came out not to be mine, to be someone else's, then they lost the hair report and tried to get it to be changed. And they eventually got him to say that you have to have an infinite number of hair sources from Dr. MacDonald before we say it isn't his hair, which isn't true at all. I mean, the hair experts had already testified. You take proper number of hair samples from each area. You can tell whether it's pubic hair, limb hair, or head hair in the first place. And I had no hair, 3.5 inches long, blonde, which is what the hair was. Okay? So the whole thing was false from the beginning. Everyone knew that Captain MacDonald had no 3.5 inch long blonde hairs. So all of that, I didn't mean to spill off into that, but all of that, you have to understand the paranoia that we were working under. I mean, we were not imagining people behind the hedges. The people were behind the hedges. And there's a big, big difference there. So at the end of this hearing, I would say to Bernie, how do I know they can't come back to me? He says, well, you can't really, except we have to get a copy of the report. So we have in our hands the written justification for Colonel Rock's thing. So we started fighting so we got it. The initial impulse was that, but it did evolve into other things. There were talks of books, and we did show it to reporters. One reporter wouldn't do a story when the story first broke until he saw a copy of some documents. So we eventually got 3 pages of Rock's report even before I saw it. And when he saw the Xerox pages of the Rock report, he then did a very truthful story, which turned out 2 weeks later to be absolutely on target. This is exact word for word, as a matter of fact. Okay? He took a chance. At the time, he thought he was taking a chance because he was dealing with a Jew from Philadelphia and a captain who was charged with murder. But he took the chance after he saw the Xerox pages, did an article. And so this is the time frame we were in. So when Bernie said one of the ways that we have to be sure of defending our flanks is to have the reports, they said no. Well, that was like a red flag. Then we went crazy. And very quickly, Otis Pike and I think it was Senator Stennis made calls for us. And within a week or two, now we're in mid-November to late November, I got it. Okay, the Article 32 hearing, they delivered 1 copy, and I had to sign forms, which I think we still have, showing that we were getting 1 copy only. So what they wanted to say, what they were telling us was, if this is ever leaked, because it's private Army material, the leak's on you, not us, because this is the only copy leaving the Army. So I got that copy, and I'm leaving Fort Bragg December 4th. So it's late November. So I put it in my car and I drive it up north, and it goes in my mom's apartment like 2 days later. Okay. And within 10 days, it was in Freddie's hand. Now, for years, we've been listening to this story as to how Jeff was obstructing Freddie from getting the Article 32 report. That never occurred.